Okay, so imagine this. A classroom, maybe miles from the nearest paved road. Textbooks get shared, sure, but the internet. That basic tool for education these days, it's just not there. That's the reality for, well, millions of students in rural Brazil. So today we're diving into how Brazil is trying to write a new chapter there, specifically how they're tackling the huge challenge of getting high-speed internet into their most remote schools. Our mission for this deep dive, it's really to unpack how a frankly quite clever technological approach isn't just putting schools online, it's actually opening up a whole world of digital opportunity in places you probably think were impossible to connect.
Yeah, and what's really interesting here, what makes us stand out, is the core technology they're looking at, 5G fixed wireless access, FWA. Now, this isn't just about your mobile phone getting 5G speed rush. It's about using that same powerful 5G network to deliver high-speed fixed internet directly into buildings, like schools. It's genuinely promising as a way to bridge that digital divide, especially when, laying cables or relying on satellite is just impractical or way too expensive.
And all this fascinating detail, it comes from an article by TV Bricks. It's dated July 2nd, 2025. And it really puts a spotlight on Brazil's, well, pretty innovative 5G internet project. So Brazil's government saw this big hurdle, but what exactly did they flag as the sort of the core problem they needed to solve?
Well, the fundamental issue, and the government's been clear on this, is just how incredibly difficult it is to get reliable, high-speed internet to public schools, especially those ones really tucked away in remote, rural parts of the country. And the impact of this digital exclusion, it's significant. I mean, it really affects students' basic right to a quality education. Think about it. They miss out on online resources, research tools, digital literacy skills that, kids in cities might just take for granted. It definitely creates an educational gap, widens that divide between the connected and the unconnected.
Right. So faced with this really pressing problem, the government brings in 5G FWA. They're calling it a fast alternative for boosting digital inclusion. This fixed 5G idea, that's what they're using to get a stable, fast connection right into the schools. But how does it actually, stack up against the old ways, like fiber optic cables or even satellite internet, especially in these tricky areas?
That is the key question, isn't it? And if you look at the bigger picture, 5G FWA seems like a real game changer compared to those traditional methods, particularly in difficult terrain. What Brazil's seeing, the early results anyways, suggest it can offer speeds and, importantly, reliability that are, and this is the phrase they use, comparable to fiber optic networks.
Comparable to fiber. Wow.
Exactly. And why is it so valuable here? Well, it's because it basically bypasses the huge challenges and the frankly prohibitive costs of digging trenches for fiber cables or setting up complex satellite dishes, especially in places that are just hard to get to rugged terrain, maybe dense forest or just sheer distance.
Yeah.
It fundamentally changes the maths, the economics of connecting those last mile schools.
Okay, so they've got this potentially game-changing tech. Where did they decide to actually, put it through its paces, put it to the test?
Right. They didn't just talk about it. They set up a pilot scheme, ran it for 5 weeks, focusing on 3 specific schools. And these weren't easy test cases. They were located way out in the rural interior of Rio Grande do Norte.
Ah,
Pretty challenging environment. What's really telling about this pilot, you see, is the conditions these schools faced. They were between 1.6 and almost 4.7 kilometers away from the nearest 5G tower.
hold on. 4.7 kilometers. That's a long way for a 5G signal
It
normally.
really is. That kind of distance usually presents, yes, significant challenges for keeping a strong, stable 5G connection.
So how did they overcome that? Were there specific bits of kit or installation tricks they used to bridge that gap?
Absolutely. That's where the smart thinking comes in. To deal with that distance and, keep the connection solid, they installed specialized external equipment. We're probably talking powerful antennas, maybe signal boosters mounted on the school building, so it wasn't just plug and play. It was a strategic setup designed specifically to pull in that weaker distance signal and make sure the performance stayed consistent, even with obstacles in the way.
That's a pretty impressive engineering, actually. Okay, so the government sees this working, and their vision coming out of it sounds really ambitious. We've got this direct quote from the communications minister, Frederico de Siqueira Filho. He said, and I quote, "We aim to connect all 138,000 basic education schools through the Connected Schools program." I mean, that's a massive number. But given they already use fiber and satellite sometimes, why is this 5G FWA suddenly such a vital part of that big strategy?
That quote is really insightful, actually, because the minister specifically said 5G FWA could provide a rapid and viable complement to fiber and satellite connections. See, it's not about replacing everything else. It's about adding another tool to the toolbox. Strategically, what that really means is it potentially speeds up public policy implementation. It offers a faster way to connect schools where laying fiber would take ages or cost a fortune or just isn't physically possible. And crucially, he points out, it broadens opportunities for digital inclusion, precisely because it can reach places that might have been left behind otherwise. Places deemed too difficult. It changes the whole rollout calculation for getting everyone connected.
Okay, so if we pull all these different threads together,
Yeah.
what's the big picture strategy that's emerging here, and what does it actually mean for students across Brazil?
It means the government's strategy is, well, multi-pronged. It's a blend. They're deliberately combining fiber where it makes sense, satellite for the very remotest spots, and now adding 5G FWA into the mix, all with the goal of tackling digital exclusion across the board nationwide, trying to ensure every student, doesn't matter where they live, gets access to quality education resources. And that's the so what for you, the listener. This mix and match approach, this blend of technologies, it isn't just a solution for Brazil. It offers a really practical, pragmatic model for how you could address connectivity gaps in all sorts of diverse geographical landscapes, anywhere in the world, really.
Yeah.
It's about using the right tool for the specific job, the right technology for the right challenge.
Yeah, Brazil's strategic use of 5G FWA here, specifically to bridge this gap in rural schools, it really does stand out. It just showcases a really flexible, adaptive, and potentially very effective way to handle internet connectivity, adapting the tech to fit the specific geographic and economic reality on the ground.
And this, I think, leaves us with a really interesting thought to chew on. How might this kind of complementary technology strategy, combining fiber, satellite, 5G, FWA, maybe other things in the future, how could that be applied to solve infrastructure headaches in totally different sectors? Or different regions facing similar barriers, geographical, cost barriers to getting digitally connected? What does this Brazilian schools example imply for future models of global connectivity? Maybe not just in education, but think about healthcare in remote areas or agriculture or even disaster response.